Well, hello there, and welcome to The One Show with Alex Jones.
And Matt Baker. Now, tonight's guest has starred in Bond films, Doctor Who, Harry Potter, Shrek, Pink Panther, The Avengers, list goes on, really.
Yeah, but as well as all of that big stuff, he's also dabbled in a little bit of comedy, working with a few mates known as the Pythons, and he was in a sitcom which only ran for 12 episodes. Now, what was it called again? Was it, it was Fatty Owls, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
What was it, Farty Towels?
No, not Farty Towels. Oh,
Go on.
Matt, get a grip. It was Faulty Towels.
Well, it is the panto season.
It is. Please welcome one of our greats. It is, of course, John Cleese.
John Cleens. John, welcome, sir. Welcome. Take a seat.
Come on.
Nice to be back.
Oh, that's it. Go
Lovely
on.
to see you. Are you well?
Yes, I always forget how tall you are.
There we are. Me too.
Only in
Likewise.
heels, you see.
Oh,
Only
is
in
it?
heels,
Is
John.
that right?
You should try it. It's good.
Now,
anyway.
is it true, John, that you are not a fan of a pun?
I'm not. I don't think puns are a very high form of wit. No, you're right.
Right.
And I once said I thought there were 3 rules in comedy. 1 was no puns. 2 was absolutely no puns.
Right.
And rule 3 was no puns whatsoever under any circumstance.
Okay, well, we
I
only
don't think he's gonna like this
well, we
one.
only read up to
Oh,
number
what's
4,
this?
didn't we?
Oh,
and
yeah.
unfortunately, we'd like to introduce you to the Cleesmas Advent calendar. There we are. Sorry, John.
Sorry, John, but the good
well.
news is, right, as you can see, 25 windows, a classic advent calendar. And behind all windows, there's a brilliant
Silly
picture.
people.
I know. There's a brilliant picture which hopefully will lead to an anecdote which you've included in your autobiography.
Yeah.
See, it's a device. It's
right.
a device.
That's what you're going to love it tonight. You really are.
So I'm going to choose a number.
Well, to be honest with you,
Correct.
John, we couldn't resist opening the first one for you.
All right.
So here it is. This is what happened today. And there's a wonderful picture of you as a bearded teacher.
Yes.
Now
When
this
I was
is all
19.
I thought you were 19 then?
I was 19, yes.
OK, now this is all to do with the story of a little white-haired boy as a history
Yes, little
pupil.
bastard, yes.
Pardon. Oh, excuse
no,
me.
You can't say that was said.
Yeah, go
Well,
on.
can I say something a little illegitimate, chap?
All right. Go on.
Yes, well, what happened was that when I got into Cambridge, I had to wait for 2 years before I could go, and the old
Right.
headmaster from my prep school, where I'd been a boy, he rang me up and said, would you like to have a job teaching at school till you go to Cambridge? And I said, I'd love to.
Yeah, perfect.
Why do you want me to teach? And he said, I want you to teach English, history and geography. And I said, I've been doing science for 3 years. I don't know anything about any of them. And he said to me, I promise you, he said this, he said, John, they're 10-year-olds. Stay a page ahead.
Right.
So I started teaching history the first day, and there was this little kid, I can't remember his name, maybe he's watching tonight, with white hair. And I discovered to my horror that he knew the dates of all the kings and queens of England. And he said, what were the dates of Henry VIII? You know, and I said, I'm not talking about Henry VIII.
Yeah.
You know, and then I said, I've got to go back to the staff common room. I ran back and looked.
Yes.
Came in, oh, incidentally, 1509 to 1547. And then he said, what about Charles I? And I nearly said, that's not fair, which would have been a bit of a mistake. But I disappeared upstairs after that. And I learned all the dates of all the kings and queens of England.
So
I
you
have
owe
to
him a
tell
lot.
you, he did me a great favour, because once I knew those dates, it all fell into place. It was the best turn he could have done me.
Well, as you said, John, if you are watching, the white-haired young boy,
Yes.
please get in touch, because John would love to say thanks.
I would,
you?
and I was in a restaurant two weeks ago on a Sunday, and a fellow called Richard Morris, who I taught, came up to me. He's now 69.
Oh. Well.
No, and I taught him, and he's coming to have dinner with me on Sunday.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, that's lovely.
It's lovely
Yeah,
to
Well,
that's
have
really
a connection.
nice.
You
You
know?
might have some more guests round for
Well,
dinner,
that would
because
be
if
fun.
any of John's former pupils are out there, other than Richard Morris, then do send us a school picture if you've got one, goodness me, and tell us your story about being taught by Mr. Cleese
Yeah.
with a beard.
All right, and
I
you
was
can get-
teaching one guy. I remember I was trying to teach him about geography. I was trying to teach him that the river Congo went through what in those days was called the Belgian Congo.
Right.
Whereas the river Niger went through Nigeria. And I said to him, you see the connection between Niger and Nigeria Congo? I said, so which country do you think the river Congo goes through? Nigeria? I said, no, you see, it's Nigeria, and it's Congo.
Yeah,
Belgium, Congo. Now, what country does the Niger go through? It was just extraordinary. And I suddenly realised that even if you're teaching something very, very simple, there's got to be a moment when someone kind of makes a mental jump to get up, even if it's not a very big jump. And I never forgot this. And I told the senior master about it because I was a little bit shaken. You know, when you can't get something like that across and you don't get it. And he said to me a wonderful phrase. He said, John, he said, the sad thing about true stupidity is that you can do nothing about it.
Oh. Do you know, John, we've got this advent calendar, we've got loads of anecdotes that we want to get through, so we'll have to hold it there for now, but we'll play a little film and then we'll chat some more, because in the news today, MPs have criticised the Post Office for how it handled claims that an IT system caused around 150 sub-postmasters to be accused of stealing vast amounts of money.
Now, some have gone bankrupt, others have even gone to prison. So, Inside Out's Nick Wallace went in search of the truth.
Well, Nick joins us now. You said there in the piece that the Post Office refused to give you an interview, but you have been in contact with them today, haven't you?
Yes.
What have they said?
We've had a response, and they've said that if significant shortfalls of cash appear in any Post Office branch, then they have a clear duty to investigate. And they said with regard to the mediation scheme, around a quarter of all the people who applied to it had a criminal conviction. Some of those people had pleaded guilty, and a very small number had been convicted by a jury in a full court of law, who'd had the opportunity to read the reams and reams of evidence that would go along with a case like this.
OK, and the MPs, they're up in arms with how the Post Office are handling the situation, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, them coming out and saying they've got no faith in the Post Office handling this situation is just a mark of the frustration. I mean, 12 months ago, they persuaded the Post Office to look again at some of these sub-postmaster cases. And with great fanfare, this mediation scheme was set up and it was being presided over by an appeals court judge. And I think 12 months on, you've got these cases that have just been bogged down. Some of them have been mediated, but many of those sub-postmasters still haven't had the opportunity to sit down with the Post Office face-to-face and try and find out what's going on.
And from a technology point of view, it's surprising that the Post Office are digging their heels in, because we all know that computers aren't 100% reliable.
Yeah, they do make the point that millions of transactions are processed on these branch computer systems in post offices up and down the country every day. They have 80,000 users, and there are 11,500 post office branches, and it's only a tiny fraction of 1% who have problems. They also say that they've done their own independent investigation of the Horizon computer system, and they've found no systemic problems. But the area in all this is the nub of the story, the thing that is being bitterly contested, is the scale of the problems that do exist. We do know there are problems, we just don't know how big they are. And the Post Office do know how many problems they have with Horizon, but they've never released that information.
OK. Nick, thank you very much. Now, this Christmas, drones, quadcopters, octocopters and other airborne contraptions will all be flying off the shelves.
They do look very enticing, don't they?
Well, I know somebody who wants one. He's not having one.
Well, it was reported this week that one had a near miss with a passenger jet. So we sent Michael Douglas to check out the do's and don'ts when droning.
But whatever their size, the Civil Aviation Authority classify them as aircraft, and the person operating them is called the pilot. Nick Rogers is such a pilot. He also flies jumbo jets.
So tell me, Nick, what have we got here?
So over there you have the F8 multi-rotor.
You're making it sound like a very serious piece of equipment, which is just a bit of a toy, is it not?
Well, it is actually a very serious piece of equipment. It has 8 running blades, which move at around about 2,000 RPM. They are potentially very harmful.
The funny thing is, they're such good fun, aren't they? And they're weirdly so easy to fly.
They can be simple to fly, but like any aircraft, when things start to go wrong, you need to understand the behaviour of that aircraft. And you can. As soon as you put a camera onto it, then you have different responsibilities. The Civil Aviation Authority have a clear set of guidelines about what you can and can't do, be it responsibilities to not film your neighbours in their back garden whilst they're sunbathing.
What a shame.
You can't operate within 50 metres of a person, vehicle, vessel, structure not under your control. And then if you were to say, I'll give you 200 quid to go and film my house so I can give some pictures to the estate agent, strictly speaking, that then becomes a commercial activity, and no matter what the size of your drone, you should have a licence.
So kids, you want one for Christmas? Please say yes. Please say yes.
See, I